One of the most exciting things as a fan of an NBA team is seeing the young players blossom. The Knicks got a lot better this season with the Jalen Brunson pickup, but they can also improve a lot if some of the young players on their team make a leap. In this video, we're going to break down 4 young players on the Knicks that could break out next season. But before we continue, I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you enjoyed the content, drop a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. Now on with the video. The first breakout candidate we're going to talk about is RJ Barrett. RJ has gotten better every year he's been in the league, but he hasn't made the All-Star leap yet. Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, who were taken ahead of RJ, have become All-Stars, and even Darius Garland, who was taken a couple of picks after RJ, has become an All-Star as well. Headed into a contract year, RJ has all the motivation in the world to make the All-Star leap. To his credit, he did put up big numbers last year. Last season, RJ averaged 20.6 rebounds and 3 assists per game, and he had many flashes of greatness, including a 46-point game against the Miami Heat. But he did it on just a 41% field goal percentage. In order to reach All-Star status, RJ is going to have to become a lot more efficient. He's always been pretty good at getting to the rim, but his finishing is pretty bad. RJ isn't a great vertical athlete like someone like Ja Morant, so he needs to become a lot more crafty so he can be a much better below the rim finisher. RJ also needs to become a much better pull-up shooter. His outside shot off the catch is cash, but his shooting off the bounce is pretty poor, and if RJ was to develop a nice pull-up jumper, it would make him a much better scorer. Lastly, RJ needs to become much better as a free throw shooter. He gets to the free throw line a lot, attempting about 6 free throw attempts per game, but he only shoots about 70% from the free throw line. RJ should look to get that free throw percentage up to 80%, which will not only increase his scoring average, but also make him a much more efficient scorer. RJ has a lot of areas of his game that he needs to work on, but he has a very good work ethic, and he also appears to be very self-aware. Not too long ago, he went on JJ Redick's podcast, and he said that pull-up shooting was an area of his game that he needed to improve in order to become a much better player.
Really, my pull-ups and having a consistent jumper, because I get to the rim so much. So I get to the rim at any time. If I can mix in those pull-ups and if they go under, if I can consistently make that 3 going under, now being a complete 3-level scorer, that's hard to stop. You're going to score at any point.
RJ also said on the podcast that he's looking to become an All-Star next season.
Next year, my goal, I feel like I could be an All-Star, be an All-Star or be in the conversation, which is obviously going to come with winning, but I have the ability to. I've always have, so.
RJ undoubtedly has the talent, but he's also got the right mindset and the work ethic. In life, when you dream big and you work hard, you can accomplish big goals. So RJ is my number 1 breakout candidate for the Knicks next season. My number 2 breakout candidate for the Knicks next season is RJ's former teammate at Duke, Cam Reddish. If I was to use one word to describe Cam's career so far in the NBA, I would say inconsistent. He's shown at times that he could be a very good scorer, and he's shown at times that he could be a damn good defender, but he's been wildly inconsistent throughout his career. After being taken top 10 in the draft in 2019 by Atlanta, his career with them was very up and down, and he also battled a lot of injuries. Then he got traded to the Knicks last season, and before he really got a chance to prove himself, he got hurt right at the end of last season. Now going into next year, Cam is headed into a make or break year. He can make a big leap and take a big role on the Knicks next season, or if he continues to be inconsistent and gets hurt again, he might find himself on a different team. As a pure talent, he's one of the most gifted young players on the team. He's 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan, and he's got a really nice handle for a player his size, and he can shoot and score the basketball. This is why he was compared to Paul George before he got drafted. But again, he's also wildly inconsistent. He could give you 25 points one night, but then he'll give you 5 points the next night. Like RJ, Cam has some pretty big expectations for himself, telling the media last season that he could be a legit star for the Knicks. Cam Reddish will have the opportunity to carve out a big role next season, but nothing's going to get handed to him. It's going to be up to Cam to prove to Thibodeau in training camp that he's worthy of a rotation spot and worthy of a big role. If Cam can put it all together, he can establish himself as a fantastic player for the Knicks next season. The third breakout candidate we're going to talk about is Quentin Grimes. Grimes has been a steal for somebody that was taken in the late first round last year. I know he only averaged 6 points per game, but he established himself as a competent 3-and-D player. Last season, Thibodeau often trusted Grimes with defending some tough assignments, and he also hit 38% from downtown. But the reason why I'm listing Grimes as a breakout candidate is because I think he could be a lot more than just a 3-and-D player, and I also think there's a solid chance that he gets that starting shooting guard spot. In Summer League, Grimes looked like a dominant player. He averaged 23 points and 4 assists per game, which earned them all Summer League team honors. Now, I'm not saying he's going to put up those type of numbers against NBA level defenders, but I think that he could be much more than just a catch and shoot player for the Knicks on offense. If he can show off this expanded offensive game while also being a great defender next season, then I think he has a chance to make a huge leap for the Knicks next season. The last breakout candidate we're going to talk about is Emmanuel Quickley. Last season, we saw two completely different versions of Quickley. In the first half of the year, he struggled mightily with his shooting, and then when Derrick Rose went down, he really struggled to handle the backup point guard duties. But after the All-Star break, Quickley completely flipped the script, and in the last 25 games of the season, he averaged 15 points and 5 assists per game on 43% shooting from the field and 38% from 3. His facilitating looked a lot better, he was taking much better shots, and he was getting all the way to the rim instead of settling for floaters, and his defense was also very good. Now, I do think those numbers were inflated a bit because he was going up against resting teams at the end of the season, but I do think that we saw some legitimate growth from Quickley. Going into next season, I think he'll continue to be a second unit player, but he can have a big impact as a spark plug off the bench. If Quickley can go into next year and continue to improve and show that same growth that he showed last year, then maybe he can make a run for the 6th Man of the Year award. So that's my 4 breakout candidates for next season, but I'm also going to give a couple of honorable mentions. First honorable mention goes out to Obi Toppin. Now, Obi is very similar to IQ in that he played a lot better at the end of last season. For the most of last season, I thought Obi was mostly just a catch and finish guy, but post All-Star break, we saw a much better version of him. In the last 20 or so games, he averaged 13 points and 4 rebounds a game on 56% shooting from the field and 38% from 3. His outside shot looked much improved, he was handling the ball much better, and his offensive game looked expanded. But again, I think those numbers were a bit inflated going up against resting and tanking teams at the end of the season. I know I'm probably going to get some hate in the comments for this, and I'm not saying that Obi didn't improve, but I'm saying some of those numbers need to be taken with a grain of salt. Obi Toppin scored 42 points on the last game of the season against the Toronto Raptors, but the Raptors were resting their starters. And why would they play them? It's the end of the season and they're trying to rest their players for the playoffs. I learned a long time ago that you always need to take April games with a grain of salt. I still remember Mario Hezonja playing like the second coming of Luka in April, and now just a few years later, he's out of the league. Unfortunately, I think Obi's role is always going to be limited on this team, and that's simply due to the fact that the best player on the team, Julius Randle, plays the same position as Obi. And we're probably not going to see too many Obi at the 5 lineups because the Knicks are pretty deep at center. But I do think that Obi can be a pretty good backup player for the Knicks next season. The last honorable mention is going to go out to Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be backing up Mitchell Robinson, but I think he's a lot better than most fans think. He's not only a pretty good defender and rebounder, but he's also a skilled offensive center that can pass the ball and space the floor. Now, if Mitch was to get hurt, I think Hartenstein can start and probably put up some pretty big numbers. Point is, don't sleep on Hartenstein. But anyway, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. Do you think any of these 4 players are going to break out next season? Am I just a delusional fanboy? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it and hit that subscribe button and click this video to see my grades for all of the Knicks off-season moves.